Joe Dante saw me in my first Broadway show. I don't know whether he saw it in New York or he saw it once we remounted it in Los Angeles, where I played the angry young man, son of Jack Lemmon, the famous movie star. I was 24 years old when I did it on Broadway. And if I could, wish any young actor anything, it would be to have an experience like that, to work with a great star and person, Jack Lemmon. He'd been a movie star for 25 years at the time I met him. He'd been a top box office. He was only 54 years old. China Syndrome hadn't come out yet. He'd won the Oscar twice already, I think, for Save the Tiger and Mr. Roberts. And he was so gracious to me. So Joe Dante came to see me playing the angry young man, son of Jack Lemmon, and decided I was the werewolf for him, I guess. I don't know how but he had me in to read for The Howling. And I remember I was very creepy in The Howling. I always liked horror movies, so it was fun for me to go and audition for one. I wouldn't have picked that necessarily as my first movie, because I'm a very creepy guy, and I had this lengthy transformation scene where I turned into a werewolf that was done all pre-CGI. There was no computer-generated transformations back then. So I had literally, they made a copy of my face in latex, and then they glued under that thin latex copy of my face, they glued these long tubes that I believe were unused condoms. But I never asked. So I had these tubes glued onto my head, and the tubes were inflated with little hoses that came out the back of my head, were hidden by the wig. And I had about, 8 people off camera with little tubes inflating my face during the transformation scene. It was crazy. But during the shooting of The Howling, because Joe thought I was principally a dramatic actor, and then during the shooting of The Howling, I just made a lot of jokes in between takes, or when something went wrong, when someone overinflated my shoulder and it exploded. Then he decided I was funny, and then he, right after that, asked me to do, I don't know what came next. I think it was Gremlins. He offered me a part in Gremlins, his most successful movie. But it came through my agent. This is why agents are bad sometimes. My agent said, Joe Dante wants you to be in Gremlins. I went, great, what's the part? He said, well, there really isn't a part. He's going to create it for you. I said, I'm going to be an extra? And he said, because of not being able to get questions, I actually said no. And he was mad at me for a while, but then that's long ago. And now I say yes to whatever it is. And sometimes the roles are bigger, and sometimes they're not, but they're always fun. I think I've worked with him 10, 12 times now. Last year I was on a Salem episode he directed. We still do it, it's just that not as many movies now because it's hard to get movies made. But Joe has sold a script about Roger Corman. Roger Corman was the great low-budget film producer that gave Joe his start, gave Francis Coppola, Ron Howard, a million people directed their first movie for Roger Corman in the 60s and early 70s. And I think Bill Hader from Saturday Night Live is going to play Roger Corman, and it's going to be called The Boy with Kaleidoscope Eyes, and I'm hoping to be in that.
Wolverine.
I've got a two-part question.